chocolate.
Oh yeah, the little version.
There's a whole Reddit about people importing
Welcome
them
to Lavaloha. You guys do all like chocolate, right?
Yes.
No? We'll see if we can change your mind if you don't. But we are going to be trying all of our chocolates today here on our farm except for one. You get a bonus chocolate in place of it, so it's okay. Now, we are a 1,000-acre farm up here with roughly around 10,000 cacao trees planted in the ground. We do currently have about half of that producing, and these trees, they don't start producing fruit until they are about 3 to 5 years old. After that, each tree can produce about 30 to 80 pods a year per tree.
Pretty good.
Now we are going from our youngest orchards today down to our oldest ones, but before we did, I wanted to give you guys a little history about our farm. So we actually started buying land in 2002. 2009, we started planting whatever. We wanted to see what grew best here. However, we did quickly find out everything grows here in Hilo, whether you want it to or not. Might not produce, but will grow. Now in 2012, we did get more serious about planting cacao, and in 2017, we started making our own chocolate. And in 2018, we opened up visitor center and course for everybody. We are going to be going from our youngest down to our oldest, but I did want to mention to you guys the history of cacao. So cacao originates in the Amazon basin under that rainforest canopy. Now this does mean that these trees, they like a lot of shade, a lot of rain, and a lot of heat. However, they hate the wind. And unfortunately, we get very strong gusts of northeastern trade winds up here. So we did plant ulu or breadfruit on the sides, and then some bamboo and banana bunches down in front. These act as natural windbreakers and help break up that wind before it hits the orchards. If you guys look to your left or if you're in the back to the right, then you'll see all those trees in that gulch. They're a lot fuller, they're taller, they're actually producing fruit. That is because they aren't getting hit by that wind at all. So it can just show you how much it does stress out the trees. But we also don't have any shade up here. Now the reason behind this is because this all used to be a sugar cane plantation before we came in and purchased it. So everything was already cleared out. But we did go ahead and plant our own shade trees. You can see a couple that don't quite look like the rest throughout the orchard. These trees, they are called companion trees, and their purpose is to grow up and provide shade to the rest of the orchard, just so we can start giving them that environment that we are more, or that they are more accustomed to. I did want to mention one of those varieties of trees, the companion trees, is a Madre de Cacao. Now, Madre de Cacao actually translates into the mother of cacao. Now, it was given its name by the first people to ever discover, cultivate cacao, which was the Olmecs or the Aztecs, the first people. Now, how they actually did make it is they would grind it down into a liquid paste, and then they would also add in spices. So they would make a spicy hot chocolate. However, only the elite or royalty were allowed to consume it. If you were a poor peasant like me, then you would just get stuck with the dried baked bean, and you could use it as a type of currency. So one dried cacao bean would equal one avocado back then. I do just find it fascinating that we still use the same variety in our orchards that the Aztecs did. As we do go down farther from here on out, you guys are going to notice a couple of things. For one, our trees are planted closer together. We also don't have any windbreakers or companion trees. Now there is a very good reason for this. We actually had no idea what we were doing when we first started. We really didn't. But we did get some outside help, and they told us what we need to start implementing into our orchards to help them thrive and survive just a little bit better. But we are going to be going down to one of our orchards today. Are you guys okay getting out and walking in them?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we are going to be doing that. If you guys need to use the umbrellas, because it did start raining again, feel free to do so. I did also want to mention that these trees, they do have their own natural sunscreen. If you've noticed the red leaves on them, that red leaf does act as their natural sunscreen. And how they do that is they only take in the red from the light spectrum to use to photosynthesize. The rest of the colors, they just bounce right off. However, when they do grow and mature into that green leaf, that is when they'll start taking in that whole full color spectrum to photosynthesize, so it does help us out a lot, especially where we don't have companion trees down here or any shade for that matter. But we are going to be getting out and going into the first 2 rows of trees there. Alrighty, but feel free to come on in, guys. These trees don't bite.
妈，拍照交给你了。
Right there. To the pod.
Alrighty, now the first tree we're actually going to be looking at is this one to my left. Because this tree is popping off with the blossoms and baby cacao pods. So if you guys look closely, you can see our baby blossoms. Now they are so small that bumblebees cannot land on them. And they have no nectar within them. So what do you guys think pollinates our blossoms for us? I'll give you birds, sorry, ants. Not ants, not birds. I'll give you a hint. It is a small insect that flies around ripe fruit.
Flies? Just like regular, like house flies? Mosquitoes?
Not bees. It's fruit flies.
Fruit flies. Oh.
Right? So fruit flies are good for something. They're
Yeah.
not just annoying. They give us chocolate. So we're a little bit nicer here in Hawaii to them. You guys can kill them all you want on the mainland. But once a flower has opened up and blossomed, it has a 36-hour window to be pollinated. If it is within that time, you will get a baby cacao pod within a day. This one in that blossom, oh, the one right next to it, that one is popping out a tiny baby cacao pod that you guys can see. So it's right there. But it'll take 5 to 9 months for that pod to ripen up into an actual cacao pod. So it does take a very long time. But I did want to introduce you guys to our first and main chocolate variety, which is right here to my right. So this one is known as Forastero. And Forastero actually makes up 80% of the world's chocolate. So if you guys like Hershey's, Lind's, Cadbury, you guys are actually eating this variety. And that is because it's the largest one. It's also the cheapest, and it has very bitter, bold flavors within it. So these big companies can come in and then spread that flavor along a lot farther and a lot thinner by adding edible waxes, sugars, and preservatives. All that real good stuff in your chocolate, right? Well, this one here, it starts off as a very light green, as you can tell from the baby pods, and ripens up into a very bright yellow, like this one is. It's also going to be very rough on the ridges and can grow to be the size of a football. Now, I have picked one the size of a football. I asked my boss, okay, how much chocolate would this actually make? And how much chocolate do you guys think one the size of a football would make?
1 bar.
1 bar?
2 ounces.
2 ounces? Pretty close. How much?
10 balls.
10 bars? It's actually about a third of a Hershey bar. So maybe one of those rectangles, if you guys are lucky. To make 1 pound of chocolate, it takes 400 to 500 cacao beans just to make 1 pound of chocolate. And one of these pods here only holds about 10 to 40 beans inside each. So you would still need 10 full pods just to make 1 pound. But the Forastero variety, it does produce the most out of all the others. It produces the fastest as well. So it only takes about 5 to 7 months for it to come up and ripen. This one is the least prone to diseases, so it doesn't get sick very easily, which is why a lot of cacao farmers like this variety. Now compared to our next one, Criollo, this Criollo one is the complete opposite of Forastero in every single way. It is the smallest variety. It's also the most expensive. However, it does provide the sweetest, richest flavors within it. Now the reason behind that is because the Criollo variety does take the longest time for it to come up and ripen. It also produces the least amount of cacao compared to all the others. And it will take that 7 to 9 months for it to grow, which means this tree is only focusing on certain cacao pods and putting tons of time and nutrients into them, which is why you get those sweet, rich flavors from it. Now this one is going to go from a very deep purple and turn into a very bright red, kind of what you guys are seeing here on this one, just minus the yellow. And then it will be a lot smoother and won't grow to be much bigger than the size of your fist. But one of these pods actually goes for $12 on the market and only holds 2 to 20 beans inside each pod. Whereas the Forastero goes for $5 on the market per pod, and you can get 10 to 40 beans inside it. So it is much more worth it to get a Forastero variety, because I've picked a lot of these pods off this tree, and it's only had like 5 beans at most inside them. So you're paying $12 for just 5 beans, and you can't do anything with it other than plant it or eat it. So that is why this variety is not commonly used. It only makes up about 1 to 10% of the world's chocolate. And if you were to buy a chocolate bar of just the Criollo variety, it's actually in the upwards of $50 to $100 for one chocolate bar because of how expensive they are. But we do have a third variety here on the farm. It's going to be a little bit lower, or not lower, it's going to be a little bit more down, so sorry. But it is going to be right here. So this variety is our third and final variety. It is known as Trinitario, and it is a hybrid between the Forastero and Criollo. It was created on accident by a cacao farmer in Trinidad. He had a whole orchard of those Criollo trees wiped out by a hurricane in 1727. However, he's still a cacao farmer. He still needs to make a living, right? So he's like, you know what? I'm going to plant Forastero instead. Produces more, easier to take care of, and it's in higher demand. So he planted Forastero over the old Criollo orchard without realizing those roots were still alive. So he planted Forastero on top. The two roots of the two trees naturally combined and became a whole new variety, Trinitario. I do love this variety because you can see the different genetics and genes they pull from. This one is pulling a lot more from the Criollo variety. However, if you look closely, you can see orange hints or even yellow hints on this pod, which is telling us, okay, this one is a Trinitario. But this one here is also a Trinitario, and it looks nothing like the others. So it is very fun to see what kind of pods you're going to get from these ones. I do love it. Have you guys ever tried the raw cacao before or seen it? No? Do you guys want to? Yeah? Okay. We're going to come out in this clearing where it's a little less muddy, and I'll open up one for you guys. Alright. Now I'm going to warn you guys, it does not look like a chocolate bar. But it is going to be very sweet and very fruity on the outside. The inside is going to be a little bit more nutty, a little bit more bitter. But you can eat the whole thing. Alrighty, what do you guys think?
It looks cool.
It looks cool, right? Doesn't look anything like chocolate. Well, if you want, you can take a picture of it before I cut it up for you guys. But I think it looks like garlic cloves, lobster tail. I've been told alien brains a lot, though.
It almost looks like, what's that corn when you get the mushroom? What is it?
The fungus of the corn?
Yeah, the corn when it turns.
Oh,
I forgot what it's
that's
called.
true.
What's it called again?
It's some weird
I know it's like a delicacy, but it's like it gets like a weird like mushroom fungus in it, and it kind of looks like that after the corn.
Oh, interesting.
And it's apparently they take it and make like hominy and stuff out of it.
Oh, okay, I have never heard of that. That
Yeah.
sounds really weird.
Yeah.
I'll have to try it sometime.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Now, I'm going to split this up for your groups, and then you guys can eat the whole bean. This one actually looks really good. Oh. All right, here's one for one group.
Thank you.
And then you guys are all one group? Yeah, that's for your family.
So then, what is this part called?
Okay. So
The rind.
That's
the
just
cacao
like-
husk. We throw that back into the orchards and mulch them with it. Because they do hold so much nutrients.
Oh, it's a lot
in them,
softer
they're
than I thought it would be.
incredible mulch, and we don't really have to fertilize too much with it.
You got me?
Really?
But you, so this will be just bitter, like
That, I
Tasteless.
wouldn't even eat that. Yeah.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've been told you could break down the husk and turn it into a gluten-free, dehydrated bread crust. I've also been told not to do it.
Yeah, it's good that way.
this almost gives me the consistency of like a lychee.
Yes. Except for when you bite into the
When you
middle.
do
Then
it,
it's
yeah.
like an almond or a nut. Because I love eating nuts.
So we can eat the whole thing?
Yeah, I suggest eating it all together. If you just sucked on that white part, spit it out, get a new bean. It's going to be way too bitter.
That's what I just did. Oh yeah, that's better.
Right? But if you eat
But I
it all
could taste the
together, that
chocolate.
sweetness blends with the bitterness.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and it's a lot better that way.
Did you eat it all?
But it does remind me a lot of lychee or lychee. And these trees are actually lychee trees or lychee trees.
The first one I just ate the outside part. It's really sweet.
What do you guys think though? It
Tried
doesn't
just
taste
the outside.
anything like chocolate though, does it?
The aftertaste tastes like a really strong dark chocolate though.
It does.
Like
I
at
think
the
so, too.
aftertaste,
like
it's
a
kinda like-
baker's chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
The pod, like the whole thing, back to the mainland?
They don't. So you can actually grow in Florida. That's the only other place you'll find them. But you can't really ship raw cacao. The reason that is because They won't even let you ship an apple out of here.
Oh,
I mean,
I know, right?
yeah, we had to sign a waiver to come in and all that stuff.
Yeah. 'Cause
Or like on the plane, they were like, sign this, and it's like, okay.
exactly, they're very strict about it. It's because if there's any pesticides or any pests on there that could affect any other crop in the States, that's going to ruin a whole bunch of food chains. But that is why.
Do y'all do anything with the?
We just throw them back into the orchard
It's
or
like-
turn it into mulch. Because of how nutritious those pods are, we don't have to worry too much about fertilizer.
I like the outside part. It's really good. Like the first one I had, I just chewed the outside. It's good. Yeah. That's cool. I saw a YouTube video of a guy that he bought some pods from somewhere, and he was like trying to make his own chocolate. He was like, let's see how tough it is, and he was like taking, yeah, he was like this took so long. He finally got it by the end, but he was like, this was so much work to make this one chocolate bar. Yeah.
It's not really worth it.
Yeah.
Just making like at home.
Yeah, he was just documenting it. He was like, I want to do the whole thing, like from start to finish.
If you're finished, you can just toss that wherever. But I did want to explain the harvesting process to you guys because we are in the off season, so we don't really get to see it. But our harvest season is from October to May, and then we harvest every 2.5 weeks during that time. That is because these trees don't drop their own ripe fruit, so we just have to make sure we go through and get every single one. But when we harvest, we hand harvest. We have somebody drive on a gator as we cut down all of our cacao pods with the 9-foot sickle, and then we throw them back into the gator. After that, it'll be taken to the other side of that bay, where we will hand split them open with machetes as well. And then we'll just pass it to the next person. The next person scoops out all the beans and places them into a fermentation bin. And we're going to go over that process next. I'm going to warn you guys, an hour ago it was 120 degrees in there, so hopefully it's cooled down. It has not. It is
115.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Not
It's
too
cooled
bad.
down by like 5 degrees. Feel free to come on in, guys. If you do get too warm, just take a step outside.
Just put it in. I like if you eat just the white part on the outside. It's really good.
That's
good. I like it.
Vinegary or a brewery, that's going to be our ferment.
Oh yeah.
And then also our coffee beans over there just came out of that ferment, so that's what you're probably smelling. But this is one of our fermentation bins. So we do have holes drilled into the inside of our fermentation bin. This is because cacao is considered a dry ferment, which means none of the juices can stay in this bin or it over-ripens and molds the product. So we just drain it out of the bottom. But we will fill this to about 250 pounds of cacao beans and then cover it with nature's saran wrap. Can you guys guess what that might be?
Leaves.
It is a type of leaf. Do you guys know
Banana
what leaf? Banana leaves. Very nice. So we do use banana leaves. The reason behind that is because banana leaves have a very special white coating on the underside. This white coating actually introduces a natural yeast into our ferment and works as a great insulator as well. So we'll cover with banana leaves and then push it into the wooden cubbies in the right-hand corner for about 10 to 12 days. During that 10 to 12 days, the heat from this room activates that yeast to go in and starts eating away at that white pulpy